Welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel. We're 54 days on from our dramatic late win against Osasuna. That was back in November. But at long last, Barça are back. And what a game we have here today, guys, to jump straight back into on the club football side of things. It's the derby. It's at the Camp Nou. It is Barça against Espanyol on New Year's Eve. And right here today, we are going to be discussing all of the big decisions that Xavi is going to have to make ahead of this return, because he finally has a fully fit squad at his disposal. But of course there is no Robert Lewandowski. He's going to be suspended. And who's going to replace him? What will the score be on Saturday? And how are Barça going to bounce back into club football? All of those predictions, they're on their way for you. I am delighted to be back. So let's do it, because Barça versus Espanyol will be coming up in the early kickoff on Saturday afternoon at the Camp Nou in what should be a fantastic occasion here with the perfect atmosphere on our return to club football. And I just think right here, guys, with this kind of fixture, it's the perfect game to come back from the World Cup. And I'm so glad that it's a derby game at home, because I think for the players here, having just gotten back from that major tournament, the incredible World Cup that it was, of course, and knockout football on the international stage, it's just different. There's huge emotion, adrenaline. Every game, of course, means everything because it's knockout football. And then to just suddenly switch back to league action, there could be a drop-off. There could be a different kind of feeling now back in these games. But I think this game here, it doesn't allow that. You are not going to be allowed to relax, to take your foot off the pedal in a derby game at the Camp Nou, and the crowd are going to demand intensity. They are going to want to get one over on their city rivals. Xavi's going to make every player aware. You need to be ready, because the action in La Liga is already firmly back underway. On Thursday, we already saw Atletico Madrid return to action with a win. João Felix and Morata scoring in a 2-0 victory over Elche, which for the time being at least, moves Atletico Madrid back to third in the league. On Friday, we're going to have Real Madrid away at Valladolid. That's Ronaldo Nazario's Real Valladolid, which I think there is an interesting away clash for Ancelotti's team on their return to action. And of course, everybody else in the league right now, they're playing catch-up. Barça return from this break top of the league there by 2 points and after 14 games played. And it's going to be up to us to keep that lead and handle the pressure as we've spoken about of late. And the referee in this one is going to be none other than Mattia Lahoz. Those are words that you never want to hear, but unfortunately I do have to tell you that, because he indeed showcased his incompetence on the world stage recently with widespread criticism of him after the Argentina versus Netherlands game. In that game, he handed out 11 yellow cards, and we got plenty of history, of course, with him ourselves. And in this particular fixture too, he's always going to be there, isn't he? He's always going to be trying to have an influence on the game, but we got to take that out of the referee's hands here. We have to make sure that nobody else can influence our destiny. Make sure here you put this game beyond any doubt, and that's going to be our mindset, not only for this game, but right the way through the season now. Take care of our own business. Because in terms of the form of the two teams coming into this game, for Barça in La Liga, it has been very impressive going there before the break. You may, of course, remember many of these important wins. We had 5 successive ones in the league after we lost El Clasico there, which was the driving force behind us overtaking Real Madrid in the league. But for Espanyol, it's been the complete opposite. They right now are really struggling. No win in 5 in La Liga, and that has left them there lurking very dangerously above the relegation zone, which for them is really a bit of a nightmare. And of course, don't forget, guys, that this very match here, Barça versus Espanyol at the Camp Nou, this time last season, that was Xavi's debut as the Barcelona coach there, his first game in the dugout, and it was a really tight one. Only Memphis's penalty was enough there to separate the two teams, and I just think it's incredible here once again. It's been little over 1 year since that game, but look at the lineup that we had there. Look at what Xavi started with here in his time as Barca coach. And just the development has been absolutely incredible. You look at that defence there, how much we've been able to strengthen that area, and finally now we've got the players back and fit to actually see that. Midfield, of course, has had work, and up front, I mean, Ilias Akomas started this game. You've got Memphis there. Xavi had to play as part of the front three, and the amount of quality that we've been able to add, that we've been able to strengthen, and like I say now, with everyone fit, we can finally see that. But of course, guys, the one big question, and one of the biggest questions of not only this game, but now looking ahead at the next 3 games, what are we going to do? What is Xavi going to do without Robert Lewandowski there, who of course is banned after that red card against Osasuna? He's the Pichichi leader by an absolute mile so far this season. 13 La Liga goals in 14 games. He's untouchable when it comes to goal scoring. How on earth do you replace that kind of influence in this team? And I've got 3 names here, and let's just go over the case for each of them, looking at this game and looking at the games to come. You've got Memphis Depay. Do you play him in the number 9 role there? He showed some promise, I feel, before his injury at Barça before the break. He did miss, though, a lot of games there before the World Cup for his club. He did show some good signs, though, out in Qatar, but he's still working his way back to full sharpness, I feel. He's still not quite there yet at the level that we would hope to have from him. But of course, his future is very uncertain. It doesn't seem as though Memphis is going to be here beyond the end of the season. Now, I don't think that's really going to come too much into Xavi's thinking. We're not going to be thinking too far ahead here. And whilst Memphis is at the club, Xavi, of course, should want to get the best out of him and use him when we need him, which might be right now. You also, though, of course, have Ferran Torres, and it's pretty much 1 year on now since we signed him in that big money move from Man City. It's safe to say he's still finding his feet. We still haven't seen the player that we bought for all of that money and the player that we really hoped for when he joined. But of course, time is on his side, and Ferran needs to start delivering for Barcelona. He needs to start really showing the quality and the potential that he has. And of course, in this number 9 role there, he can be a very clever mover. He's got good football IQ there. And also with him, you have to think about as well how it would benefit the rest of the team as well. He's excellent, of course, in his pressing. He gets in all the right positions. And in a game like this, you feel like the wingers could really benefit from Ferran being in the team. But can he provide the goals from that number 9 area? And then you've got Ansu Fati as well, who of course is very capable of playing down the middle of the field. Again, for him, he's yet to rediscover that pure finishing touch that we know he has. We know that we saw it before his injury problems. Of course, he was lethal inside of the penalty area. But Xavi continues to say he's going to be important. He's going to be a really vital part of this team now in the second half of the season. So the question's going to be, well, when does that begin? Does it start right here in the very first game back? Do you already start to say, well, okay, Ansu, now is the time to deliver? Because if we do indeed move on to the team that I would really like to see in Xavi's starting lineup coming into this first game back, of course it's going to be Ter Stegen in goal. We all hope that he continues the incredible club form that he's shown right throughout the season so far. Then defence, though, I'm not sure we're going to see Ronald Araújo in that starting line. I think it may just be a little bit too soon for him to be thrown straight back in there in this kind of derby game. Remember, he hasn't played a game since September. He's had a long road back. We don't want to take any unnecessary risk. And of course, he'll be on the bench. You know, he can come on. He can get minutes in this game for sure. But I'm just not quite sure that Xavi is going to start him as of yet. Which then means for me, I would actually play Kounde at centre-back, and I would play him alongside Andreas Christensen. Now, of course, there's the chance to push Kounde out to right-back. You could bring in Eric Garcia there at centre-back. But in this game, for me, could we get away with playing Roberto? I think we could. I do believe against a team like Espanyol, they're not playing well, they're not doing well. I think Roberto would be fine at right back there, because then you can have Kounde at centre back. The quality that he can show in that area, that is rock solid there alongside Christensen. Balde, for me, has to start at left back. He has been absolutely wonderful at Barça this season, and then into midfield. And I think here, Xavi in this first game back, he can make a real statement, and he can come out and say, right, let's start as we mean to go on. Frankie, Gavi, Pedri. And he could do it. There's nothing stopping Xavi here from starting with that midfield. We all know that Busquets is likely to be there, that the real possibility is that Busquets starts in that role, but I would just say why, at this point here, why not play Frenkie against an Espanyol team who are not going to put massive pressure on you? Play him in that midfield there, give him a game in that role, and have Xavi and Pedri supporting him, which then leaves us with our attack. And again, huge questions in this area. Now for me, Ousmane Dembele, he was one of the very last players there to return after the World Cup. He's had the least recovery time, and I just think here, is there a need to start him? Would we be able here to get away with having him on the bench in this game? I don't think it would be that harmful. I think that's where maybe he should be starting this game from, because I also think, guys, I've got to be honest, it would be so harsh to drop Rafinha here, to actually not play him from the start, given what we saw in the last game before the break there, coming on against Osasuna when we desperately needed something, and he delivered. He was the man to score that winning goal, and I just think here, you can't not reward him for that. You can't say you did absolutely everything. What more could he have done but score that winner and then bench him? That would be extremely harsh from Xavi. Not good for confidence. So for me, Rafinha should be starting this game out on the right-hand side. And then when you're talking about replacing Robert Lewandowski, replacing all of those goals, I think you actually end up playing both Ferran and Ansu Fati. I think there you have a sort of double threat. You've got Ferran down the middle, who can be versatile, who can make those runs, who can help the team really push on and be offensive in the final third. And then you've got Ansu, who can also chip in as well from that left-hand side. Of course, you can use Memphis Depay from the bench, bring him on, and he's somebody who's certainly capable of scoring a goal. But I think that front three there, Rafinha, Ferran, Ansu Fati, I like the look of that. I think it would be an exciting one there to see how it all clicks together. But of course, it would need time. It's not something that we've seen really throughout the season at Barca so far, but I would actually just like to throw something else out there here that I wouldn't be all that surprised if Xavi did it. Speaking again about Dembele, if he did play Rafinha on the right-hand side, in this game I can kind of feel it right now, that he might play Dembele on the left-hand side. We know that hasn't really worked out all that well with both of them starting at the same time, but maybe here Xavi will feel that without Lewandowski, maybe you play Ferran in there in the middle, maybe you play Ansu Fati, and maybe then that front three, it all just becomes flexible. Maybe you see a lot of interchanging in positions, maybe you see there a lot of versatility, and without Lewandowski, maybe we try and counter that by just being very flexible, being unpredictable, and maybe Xavi will go with Rafinha and Dembele and just try and mix it up a bit and see maybe if then that could actually work in some way. But please do let me know, guys, in the comments here, looking at the two lineups that we've seen, the different shapes, the different forward combinations, who would you go with? If you were Xavi in this game without Lewandowski, how do you counteract that? How do you go about there replacing those goals? And what trio would you start with? Let me know that right now down below, because when we move on to the predictions in this game, and that is absolutely key, because looking at these, I think the expectations right now, honestly, they're not all that high. In this game here at home against a struggling Espanyol team, I was expecting 3+ goals. I was expecting maybe even 4+ goals to be the majority. But a lot of Barca fans right now staying pretty calm, pretty laid back at this point. And I think just waiting here, waiting patiently to see what this team can do. And if you're looking at the members' predictions, that's really interesting right now. Because without Lewandowski, there's so much more debate, so much more variation in who's going to score the first goal. We've got Rafinha, we've got maybe Ansu Fati, Ferran, could Pedri get the opening goal? But in terms of my prediction here, I'm going to make one, a score and a scorer. I think we're going to start well. I am backing Barca here to win big by 3-0. And if he can start, I think Rafinha may be the one again to unlock their defence, to get the very first goal. But please, guys, I am really excited for this game, really delighted to be back and talking again about Barca matches. That is what we've all missed, and that is why I'm so excited here to dive back into it. And hopefully, we're going to get a special performance on our return now with all of these players available. Do let me know your thoughts. How is it going to go? And what should Xavi do? And I would also like to just give a word on Pele, of course, who sadly passed away on Thursday night at the age of 82 years old. He's a legend of the game. Whatever age you are there, throughout generation and generation of your family, Pele will be somebody who is remembered so fondly. And I think certainly here, his legacy in this game, it is eternal. He is going to live on. What he's done in football and what he's achieved and the way that he did it will always be remembered. Very, very sad news there on Pele, and certainly a huge loss to our game. But thank you indeed, guys, for joining me here today as we are back with the club football. I really do appreciate all of your support, all of your enthusiasm here about Barca's return, and I will see you after the game on New Year's Eve. But until next time, as always, Visca El Barça!